our presentations with what we call a dinámica, an icebreaker. So I think we've got our two volunteers all ready. Our volunteers. So Sasha, take it away.
All right, so today we have our two valiant volunteers who are going to engage in a sword fight. Now, you guys get to be the judges of who wins the sword fight, all right? So, we have, what is your name? Anne. And?
Steve.
Steve. Okay, Anne and Steve. So, we can over here. So, we're going to blindfold both Anne and Steve. Alright, we got Steve blindfolded. Now we're working on Anne.
So now, as you guys can see, both volunteers are blindfolded. Here's your swords.
Alright, can you see anything? No, I can't see it. Okay, really blindfolded. Here we go. Hang in there, Anne. We can do this.
We're going to count to 3, and we're going to let them go at each other as if they were piñatas. And we will. Now, guys, this is just a play fight. No need to hurt anybody. So, are you two both ready? Okay. Let's all count to 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! And they're fighting in the rock. Oh, she crossed first blood. She's going for his neck. She's getting up.
Get it right. Get it right.
Go for the jugular.
Alright, so who do you guys think won? Anne. Now, Steve, we weren't completely fair. Why did Anne win? Would you explain to Steve why Anne won?
She's better.
Well, she's better, clearly.
She wasn't handicapped by no sight.
Okay, so Steve was blindfolded. Steve didn't have any vision, right? So Anne clearly had more information.
Anne was not blindfolded.
Sorry. So let's give our round of applause for Anne. Alright, so without information, we are blind, right? Or sin información, somos ciegos. Can we say that together?
Sin información.
Oh! There we go. Let's try one more time together. Sin información, somos ciegos. Perfect. Alright, so let's get our slideshow up. That is the motto that CED has decided to adopt, not only for our presentation, but to represent our sector. As a sector, we work hard to give individuals, families, and businesses the information and tools that they need to make informed financial decisions. Okay? So starting with family finances. Now we want to make sure you guys are awake and going, so we're going to play a little game called Stand Up If, and it's exactly how it sounds. Let's see, let's do a test run real quick. Stand up if you're excited to be here today.
Yeah!
Alright, stand up if you're excited for ice cream later. Perfect, you guys got the rules of the game. Now, stand up if you have set a savings goal for 2012. Uh-oh. Alright, stand up if you understand your monthly living costs.
Whoa.
Well, that's a lot better. Have a seat. Stand up if you would like to make more money. So these are the kinds of questions that we aspire to help Dominican families, our counterparts, understand. The first part to developing a family budget is understanding this kind of information. How much is coming into the household? How much is going out of the household? How much am I spending on a daily basis? And this is a lot harder for families who don't have a steady source of income, where income is coming from various different directions. Okay? So this is our first kind of goal, is calculating our living costs. And what we basically do is like very rudimentary tools. We ask people to write down what they spend. What is coming in? What is the source? Where are they spending it? Transport, food, whether it's in a colmado, which is a small bodega, or whether it's in the supermarket. And so most of the information that they need to know to win the sword fight or not be blind anymore, they already have. It's a matter of teaching them the skills of writing that down. So that is the firm basis that we use to help families develop a family budget. Okay? So developing a family budget is not easy. I think the majority, if I said stand up if you use a family budget, I think y'all would be lying. But we have various different tools and ways that we teach families to use a budget, because it's not only about developing a budget, but it's also about using it in your everyday life, right? So one of the tools that we use, and take notes, that way you can go home and maybe use this tool as well, is an envelope system. So we ask families to title envelopes with their different costs and actually deposit their money in these envelopes. Okay? And so developing a family budget is important for not only using your money wisely, but also savings, right? If we don't have a budget, we don't know where our money's going, it's a lot harder for us to save. So we teach people the importance of savings. We hope they use these tools so then they can direct some of their income into savings. And responsible use of loans. I mean, savings is always better than loans, but if you're going to take loans, what are the payments, what are the interests, and the lending? So having information doesn't only extend to individuals or families, we also like to help aspiring and existing business owners. Okay? So this includes doing a consultant or also like an investigation of their business, understanding where we can help them in terms of basic business skills such as accounting, marketing, inventory. We also help them understand that a family budget and a business budget are two budgets that need to be kept separate. And so we hope that through these skills and tools, they can continue to reinvest in their business and make them more profitable, not only helping the individual, but the community economic conditions within their community. Thank you. So for those community members who don't necessarily have existing businesses, and Yona, if you would go ahead and help me out. An income generation project is a great way to teach hands-on business skills. So this starts with choosing a product that the community would like to sell and doing a feasibility study, seeing if this could be a feasible business. We also go into production, teaching skills such as costing and pricing, then selling the project, and then practicing skills such as accounting, marketing, bookkeeping. So what we're passing out to you now are two products that are actually being made now through volunteers in DR. So we have Mistaline and Suavitel. You guys can smell it, touch it. Please don't ingest it. That's all we ask, okay? This is also menthol, which is like a Vicks vapor rub that we make as well.
Don't drink it.
So the Mistaline is made by my women's group, and the Suavitel is made by a group in Alta Mayor. And so some of the other products we make are jabón líquido, like a liquid soap. We make the Vicks, shampoo, and other products that are household products that can be used in Dominican homes. Okay? So give me a smell.
What's the green one for?
The green one is like a fabric softener.
It's not candy.
It's not sludge. Okay, so last but not least, the overview of our sector goals is building strong organizations. We aim to make our work sustainable in this country, and part of the way that we do this is developing strong organizations who can carry on this work, not only through family finance or income generation, but also developing projects based on community-identified needs. Okay? So these are some community groups. And so the way we do that is by introducing the building blocks to strong organizations, which is developing a mission, a vision, identifying roles for different members of the organization, shared goals and objectives, as well as eventually writing statutes and legalizing the group. And so building strong organizations is one of the ways that we can ensure that after the 2 years of our service, that our hard work can stay behind within our communities. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who's going to talk about eco-tourism.
Hi everybody, my name is Dan. I live in the east, 3 hours east of San Domingo, in a small town called Pedro Sanchez, and I have an ecotourism project. So today what I'll be talking about is how Peace Corps and Peace Corps volunteers work with communities to develop community-led ecotourism projects. What we want to drive home today is that the point, the purpose of our work is to make sure that these projects are self-sustaining, that they can stand on their own 2 feet. We're going to talk about tourism in the Dominican Republic and how it looks today, and how Peace Corps fits into that paradigm. And then I want to highlight 4 different volunteers that are working and showing different kinds of things that we can do as volunteers. Go ahead, Dave. So before we talk about what it is that Peace Corps does, I think it would be helpful to first arrive at some sort of group definition of what is ecotourism. So when you hear the word ecotourism, let's just shout out some ideas. A word that comes to your head.
Hiking.
Hiking. Photography.
Protection.
Protection.
Making money.
Making money, sure.
Environmentally sensitive tourism.
Environmentally sensitive tourism. Oh, let's leave it right there. So these ideas are all very important, and you guys can sort of already see that one person's idea of what ecotourism is may vary sometimes widely from another person's idea. The definition that we like to use comes from the International Ecotourism Society. Can I get a volunteer to read what our favorite definition is? Sure, way back.
Responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment and improves the well-being of local people.
Exactly. It's very important for us as Peace Corps volunteers to first decide what it is that we want to accomplish, what kind of impact we want to have on the community. So when we talk about ecotourism, we're talking about protecting the environment and making sure that the benefits from those projects go towards local communities, and that we're also protecting the local culture. So, Dominican Republic. These are 3 photos that when I typed in Dominican Republic and tourism, these are the first 3 photos that came up in the Google search. And this is unfortunate. This upsets me as an ecotourism volunteer because this is not what I think of when I think of the Dominican Republic. And I'm sure that you all, when you served here, didn't spend most of your time eating from buffets and hanging on the beach drinking. So let's fast forward 3 slides.
We would have preferred
1, 2. As you can see here, what we want to do is bring tourism back into the communities. We want people to get out of their all-inclusive resorts, leave the beaches, and see that the Dominican Republic has so much more to offer. And then in that way, these communities can start to benefit concretely from tourism dollars. This, of course, is the Dominican Republic. So first, let's talk about where people are currently going. When we talk about tourism in the Dominican Republic, we're really talking about 4 very small areas where foreign visitors go. San Domingo and the beaches around the capital. La Romana, Casa de Campo, and Bayibe, where a bunch of main all-inclusives are located. Of course, many of you have heard of Bávaro, Punta Cana, and the oldest and most well-established Puerto Plata, Sosúa, and Camarete. These are the major destinations. This is where 90% of tourism dollars are destined. And these communities, these towns, are currently feeling the full brunt of the impact of what mass tourism can bring. Environmental degradation, crime, sex tourism, and market rise in HIV/AIDS. So, in contrast, these blue dots represent where Peace Corps volunteers are currently serving. As you can see, we're nowhere near these areas, well, except for Salina and Bayibe. We're trying to bring people out of these areas and show them what else this country has to offer. But Peace Corps doesn't work alone. We work within the context of a growing movement of projects across the country. These purple dots represent the USAID-funded Dominican Treasures projects, and the green dots represent a new Dominican homegrown ecotourism network called Redotour, the Red Dominicano de Turismo Rural, the Rural Dominican Tourism Network. And we work with these other projects. We do intercambios, we do exchanges, we teach each other, we learn from each other, and most importantly, we try to collaborate to help so that different projects can bring tourists from one to the next. Thank you, David. So now I want to just briefly touch on some of my favorite volunteers and what they are doing in the country. Alana Karate, who is a close friend and neighbor of mine, has a chocolate tour. She brings people out to the campo. They learn how chocolate is made. They see the whole process from the tree, the mata, with the mazorcas, the cacao, the actual fruit that cacao comes from, all the way through the production process to the end, the chocolate. Alana Karate is showing them she's showing the guides how to be good guides. And and I just wrote some notes so I make sure that I do a lot of justice. She works with environmental interpretation, which means it's not enough to just tell a guy, show them how cacao is made. She tells them how to bring tourists out into the campo. Instead of knocking down a mazorca, she gets them to do it themselves. And that way, the learning process can be experiential, it's interactive. She fact checks the guides to make sure that the things that the guides are saying are actually true, that they make sense. She works with punctuality and professionalism, which we all know as ecotourism volunteers is extremely important, especially working with foreign and international tourists. Next. So I know I said my favorite volunteers, and I just realized that's weird because now I'm talking about myself. That's me, and our favorite horse, Falcon. And this is my ecotourism project's Facebook page. And I put this up here to talk a little bit about what we do, bringing tourism projects online, bringing them into the 21st century. It's important as a tourism business to have a presence on the internet. So we help our projects create websites, create email accounts, create social networking sites, and get them interacting with potential clients. It's not enough to, I'm sorry, yes?
I saw the chocolate tour online. Is that the one that you showed us, or is there more than one?
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah, is it what I saw it several times?
It's a beautiful website.
Yeah.
It's not enough for us to throw up a website on the internet and have them use it. They need to do it themselves. So every time that we do something with our project partners, with our host country counterparts, it is us and them. It is them clicking the mouse and making sure that that network makes sense, that they know how to update and manage that website. And in the same way, we're showing them how to use email, how to rapidly respond to client requests, and to become, in all essences, a professional business. Jillian Blansky, who lives in Hanabacoa, has done wonders for her project. This is an example of the promotional materials that she helped to create. This is her shining, pretty face right in the middle. And Jillian Blansky has spent the majority of her time working with a women's group. She has helped the women's group create an inventory system and an accounting system for their artisanry. And she has helped them create work schedules for her women's cooking group. Basically giving them the structure that they need as a business to take them from what was once just a small community group into something that has the capacity to work with international tourists. Finally, Selena Smith, who I assure you spends a lot more time than just snorkeling and the reefs, is working with a women's group. She has many, many beautiful examples. I encourage you to go out into the main room and see the artisanry on sale. Selena is working with her women's group and marketing handmade local jewelry to foreign clients. It has an enormous added value for the products that she's created. She's helping them to not just make these products, but to market them and to apply the same basic microfinance concepts that we teach to whatever small community group and applying it to a much larger international market. So these are just a few things that I wanted to highlight as ecotourism. I'm going to hand it off to my friend Kevin, who will talk about cooperatives and agriculture. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin. I have been working with a group of honey producers up in the Northwest in Monte Cristi, Dajabon, and Santiago Rodriguez since 2009. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about cooperatives. We do have, for example, when we're talking about ecotourism, a lot of times those groups do form cooperatives. I'm going to talk to you specifically about the agricultural groups that form cooperatives. So in the time that I've been here, we've had volunteers that have worked with producers of mangoes, of avocados, honey producers, coffee producers, cacao and chocolate, and dried fruit. So we've had volunteers working in all sorts of different, with all sorts of different products. And so basically Sasha gave you a good explanation of what we work with these groups. We're talking about organizational strengthening, and we're doing business development. And each of these groups, when the volunteer gets to the site, each group is different. Some groups are just getting started, so they need a lot of focus on that organizational strengthening to start out. Other groups are already pretty well organized, and so there's a lot more of a focus on that business development, accounting, business administration, marketing, things like that. So I'm going to talk to you more or less about my experience, my journey over the last few years, and kind of what I've been through and some of the things that I've experienced. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and go. Okay, I'll go ahead and address this picture here. This is a honey processing plant, and this was funded by the United Nations Development Program. And so these beekeepers that I'm working with, I think I've been really lucky because this is a group that the men, they have a really strong core of workers that they're really motivated, they are very well organized, and so because of that, they've gotten a lot of support from outside organizations. And this is just an example of, this is actually their very first project, and you can see that they have a very nice facility. And because of the success that they had with that project, they then got they got money from USAID, which was to transition to organic beekeeping. And so this group has had a lot of money flowing around them, getting some of that infrastructure, getting the machinery, getting all kinds of things. But there's still one thing kind of missing, that group. They had all the money flowing around them, but they didn't actually themselves have any money that they could actually fulfill their role as a cooperative. So they weren't able to purchase honey from the honey producers to compile the honey and then sell it in the market. So the beekeepers just continued selling to the intermediaries or the middlemen, and so the group wasn't able to function. And so that was kind of one of my main goals when I got there, is to really kind of get them up and running and get them actually working as a group. And so that that machinery that you saw there, it had been there since 2008, and until they had never even hit the on switch. They never even tried any of it out, but they assured me that everything worked just fine with it. So when I got there, I was a little skeptical as to whether or not it was actually going to work. And so with the support that they've gotten, this is what beekeeping would look like, or what it looks like in the past. Those individual small farmers that aren't involved in the group, in an association or a cooperative, a lot of them don't have the nicer equipment, and they don't have access to the markets that the associations or organizations can get them. And so that's one of the really great things about the cooperative, is that it helps them they can collectively, I'm talking about honey, but if we're just talking about the agricultural groups in general, when they work collectively, they can go and purchase material, say seed or fertilizer in bulk, and get a much lower price. And so, it lowers their operating costs, so they can make a little bit more money. And so when you have the organization supporting them, they end up being able to really upgrade and have equipment and materials like that's much higher quality, and which results in a much higher quality product. And this is just a few slides from my experience. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about just how varied the experience is for each volunteer. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one. And you can see this is, and the previous boxes that were, actually they're called supers, that we saw that were just the plain wood, those were actually some of the organic boxes. And so all of these apiaries are still in their transition with the USAID project. And so all these supers that you see in the background there, those are just your conventional beekeeping boxes. So when I got to my site, the president of the cooperative, and the board of directors, all they talked about was exporting, exporting, exporting. That's all they really wanted to do. And in early 2010, we made contact with a buyer in Miami, and he actually came down and visited us, and that's him sitting there on the right. And we were all set, ready to go, excited. We were going to be, he agreed to go ahead and buy honey from the group, and then we just couldn't get it together. We had all kinds of setbacks. The biggest problem being, with standards in the Dominican Republic are much different than that of the United States. So one of the biggest problems was finding containers, and this was going to be selling in bulk, finding containers that would meet the requirements. So basically we got set back for a year, and we just had to keep searching throughout the country, looking for barrels all over the place. And eventually we finally did find some. So the day came that we finally got to work on the plant tube, got that up and running. We had a few fuses that were blown, power outages, things like that. But it all did end up working finally. So these are just some pictures of the actual processing. This is the honey once it, the beekeepers had, in their actual apiaries, had extracted the honey, put it into these barrels, brought it to the plant, and then we're going to go ahead and process it here. So they're emptying it into a filter, and then go forward. And then this is what the honey looks like when it comes out, crystal clear almost. So you can see that the quality of that honey, it's really good stuff. I mean, this country has an amazing environment for producing honey. So went through the process. I was able to help them with the paperwork, with logistics in the plant, with communication by email and phone calls and all that stuff. And got some press there to cover it. And this was really a big achievement for the beekeepers and also for the Dominican Republic in general, because this is something that doesn't happen every day. And so there's really a big source of pride for the beekeepers. Once this went through, we had a big celebration, and they were all just really proud of the work that they had accomplished. And it was something that they really did on their own. It wasn't funded or sponsored by United Nations or USAID. It was something that they really took on themselves and really accomplished. And you can see that still, although we have a nice building there, there's still lots of work that needs to be done. So it's still a work in progress. And so we did that export. It was successful, and now we had to go in and review what's lacking, what does this group need. And so one of the biggest things that I saw is that I was on the computer doing every little thing. And so with me leaving soon, I'm working on transferring skills so that they can communicate by email, so that they can do documents online, write letters, do spreadsheets and things like that. So I did a computer course with about 10 of the members, preparing them for the next shipment, which hopefully will be in the next couple months. So that's kind of my main goal. I'm leaving in July, so that's my main focus, is getting them ready so that when I leave, that they'll be able to carry the torch and continue doing this. So, yes?
Two questions. Who started the co-op in the first place? Was Peace Corps involved in that, the startup, or did you?
There was a Peace Corps volunteer there when that cooperative was started, and it was actually a stipulation of the United Nations Development Program. That project, there was a stipulation in there that they had to form.
Is anyone going to follow you up to Peace Corps? I'm just
there is
the longevity.
Right, and my goal is to get them to a point where we don't need a volunteer. There is a volunteer that is about 15 minutes away from this plant that possibly could provide some support. And I think it'll kind of depend. The new business volunteers come in August, so I'm leaving in July. So that when we get closer to that point, we can kind of determine if they need another volunteer or if they're ready to take off on their own.
Just one question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that the training program is going, the computer training program is going?
It was when we first got in there at the very beginning, these guys were they were really overwhelmed, and they were just really scared that they weren't going to be able to learn how to do this. But within a couple hours, they were already really excited. Yeah, I know how to use the computer, and they were all really excited about it. And others have progressed more quickly than some. But we don't need all of them to be able to do it. Really, we just need a handful, 2 or 3 guys that can do it. And so.
And you think they're on track?
Yeah.
To be able to do it?
Yeah.
So the shipment actually did go to that?
Yeah, the shipment. Yeah, we sent 32 barrels of honey, which is 21,000 pounds. And they actually sold, compared to the local market, it was a 55% increase on the local market. So they were selling, those barrels sell for like 450, I think, or 500 in the local market, and they were selling for 700, 750.
Was that like one container?
Yeah, it was a 20-foot container.
So you had to really do all the helping around just the exports, all the forms and all the regulations around.
And so and so now, and that's the other thing is that, like, I'm working on, now we have familiarity, and I was also learning at the same time, but now we have familiarity with the forms, and so that's something that as we go through it again, I'm going to be letting them kind of take the reins, and I'll kind of be in the background, still guiding them, making sure that they know what's going on.
You mentioned regulatory environment. Has there been any challenge with the USDA or any of the U.S. governmental agencies to be able to report?
No, and I mean, you saw that honey, and it's really, high quality, no contaminated. They don't use any antibiotics or anything like that.
Testing that has to be done here before it's allowed in.
There's testing that they do beforehand, and I think the main test that we didn't do here that FDA did was for antibiotics.
Have there been any issues with diseases among the bees? U.S.
They do have problems with the varroa mite, but since 2009, the population has decreased tremendously, but I still don't think there's that colony collapse disorder that is plaguing the United States.
You mentioned earlier that they didn't have the money to buy from their cooperative members. How did you resolve that?
Yeah, so with this shipment, the buyer was able to, upon receipt of the contract or the invoice, he paid a third up front, and then once we had the shipping documents, he paid another third, and then upon passing through customs, he paid the final third. So it was enough to be able to pay at least a little bit up front to the beekeepers, and it was also some that could afford to hold off on payment a little bit more than some of the other ones. So we were able to work it out like that. And we're also in the process of getting the loan, and hopefully that'll be ready for this next harvest season, which is already upon us.
Who will be the lender?
Banco Agricola.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I think you were first.
I was curious now that you sold these at a much higher rate. How do you get how do you share the profits back to the cooperative members? And how do you document the quality of life increase that you've created? Because I'm assuming there is.
Yeah, well, as far as when they initially, basically the market was for the barrel was 18,000. And so when they first made that shipment, we still weren't sure what all the expenses were. And so we paid a base of, well, we started out by paying them 20,000 pesos, so a 2,000 increase on what the domestic market was. And then the plan is to pay a bonus at the end once everything has been processed. And so they should get a little bit more still than what they already got.
And how are you documenting the impact of your project on the quality of life? Or is that not what you're looking at?
No, I haven't looked at that. And we're getting low on time, so we're going to take a few more questions, and then we're going to kind of wrap up. Okay, you were first, and then we'll follow up.
Well, I just wondered, you've become a honey expert, so when you leave in July, what do you hope to do?
Find the honey.
I don't like getting stung by bees, so I don't think I'm actually going to take a bee.
What about taxes? Have they already paid taxes?
No taxes.
There's no tax.
All right, were there any other questions? I think I wanted to try and just hit on a few more things before, let's go ahead and, did we finish up all the pictures? Okay. Let's see where we were. Okay, yeah.
Just want to say I did 2 of these tours this weekend, the chocolate tour and the eco trek. They're both great. The volunteers have done an incredible job.
Thank you. The thing I want to kind of close with is what you've seen from the 3 of us. You're working with families, working with ecotourism, working with all sorts of different agricultural producers, is that CED can't. It's very hard to pin down exactly, a training regimen for CED. And so when we come into country, we don't exactly know what we're going to be doing. And I think a lot of credit goes to the training program and our trainer, Tim Kiefer, who is now also our acting APCD, that he does a great job of getting us the basics for those organizational strengthening and the business development skills, and also gives us some exposure to things like ecotourism so that when we do get to our sites, we are well equipped to take on whatever it is, whether it's working with avocado producers or whether it's family financing or whether it's an ecotourism project. And so I think a lot of the credit goes to him and his training that he's given us, but also to the volunteers because, I mean, I got to be honest, they really are a really amazing group of people. They get to their sites, they do their diagnostics, and they figure out what do these groups need, where are they lacking? Is it organizational issues or is it business development issues that they need? And they go to work with whatever they discover. So I want to thank. We're going to go ahead and close with that. I want to thank you all for your time. And I hope you in this room because we also have another part of CED coming up after this, which is one of the initiatives, which will be the Constriative 2.2. So thank you.